At the same time, the National Prosecuting Authority has warned initiation schools that they could face criminal charges in accordance with the Children's Act if they contravene the law. For more, we have in studio Mr. Bapela, the Media Relations Manager at Sonke Gender Justice. Good afternoon, Mr. Bapela, and thank you for your time on the PM News Desk.
Well, thank you.
Look, we want to redeem and sustain the dignity of this ritual, as it has come under fire in recent years for the unnecessary deaths from unsafe circumcisions. Where do we start, sir?
Well, I think we start by ensuring that communities speak to each other. The traditional leaders and the government and civil society. I mean, communities. We know that they would know that who are the charlatans, because a point that we must make is that there are lots of boys who go in and come out alive.
Of course.
And these stories don't get to the media. But I think what we need also to emphasize is that there's a need for this collaborative. And I agree with Deputy Minister Bapela that it's important that all of us step up to the plate and ensure that there is zero tolerance. But one thing that must be said is that lots of traditional leaders, do splendid work, and there are few that we know, and that's why they must be prosecuted, arrested.
This is a perennial problem, though, and we often see a shifting of responsibility between traditional affairs and the health department. What would you like to see government do?
Well, it's important that these discussions, they start even before the period of initiation schools began, so that we don't always close the stable when the horse is bolted.
Of course, yes. There is a growing sense among many communities that some sections of the South African media play a role in portraying negatively African cultural practices by promoting stereotypes, misconceptions, and so on. How does this impact on your work?
Well, I think what it does is that it seems to create that there's something inherently wrong about this cultural practice. And I think that's wrong. There are
Most
people who,
yes.
Who in fact are giving a bad name to the practice itself.
The problems of the initiation schools, this is a very emotive and cultural and spiritual issue. How do we create societies in which all our cultural practices are respected, but still uphold the values and principles of our Constitution?
I think there's a need for us to talk more, educate each other about each other's cultures, but also that it's important for us not to demonize, not to denigrate, not to vilify these cultures as above others, but also to say that we are different, we're divergent, but we should also respect, what does the Constitution say, but also respect each other's cultures.
How critical is it for us to move away from the mindset that government must provide all the solutions, government must fix everything? How do we encourage a culture of personal responsibility amongst our youth and communities? For example, where parents make sure that the initiation school is indeed legal and safe and does have the required permit, or members of the community come forward and report bogus schools?
Well, that's when you need an active citizenry, where all of us, we don't fold arms.
Yes.
All of us do not only stand up when the horse is bolted, as I said earlier, that all of us do not only get into the blaming game, condemning, vilifying, that we take steps, because we know who are the charlatans, we know who are in fact making money out of these practices. And a lot of traditional leaders, in fact, wants to see good coming out. A lot of them would not want to send kids to come back in body bags. We know for a fact that traditional leaders themselves are parents. So it's important for us not to look the other way, not to fold arms, but to say, this is our issue. We are in this thing together.
How important is a more cohesive approach between health authorities, traditional leaders, and community members themselves? Because this ceremony, these rituals, have a great potential for building African families, communities, and the nation.
Well, it's very important because, there are Africans who are, doctors who have been to the initiation schools. That's why it's important for us to, like one minister had appealed to them that come back and join, so that they are able to make these practices safer, secured, but also for us to raise our voices and say we can't, one death is one too many. We should always be mindful of the fact that these are young boys who go in there and get, come back in body bags. But we know as communities who are doing this, it's important for us to raise our voices and speak out.
Thank you, Mr. Botha. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. Nigeria is reeling from yet another attack from Boko